On a recent trip to Croatia, I decided to compare the OPPO Reno14 and the iPhone 16 cameras for photos and videos. I'll show you a ton of samples of street photography, landscape, portraits. We'll talk about what it was like to use each phone and ultimately which one I liked better. Now, I'm not really going to go into the features of each phone because I already did that in this video right here, so you can check that out if you're interested in a more detailed comparison. And I still want to point out that the Reno14 is bigger, it's wider, and it gives you more camera options, which actually ends up being super meaningful. Both phones have a main and ultra wide camera, but the Reno14 also has a 3.5x telephoto. And this was a major advantage during this trip where I was shooting a lot of subjects that were far away. The actual trip to Croatia was pretty easy, just a quick flight to Newark and then another one to Dubrovnik. And what I did learn is that I don't think I could do any more long flights in economy because I didn't sleep at all, and that was an overnight flight. So basically all I ended up doing was just sitting there and watching movies for like a 9-hour flight. Now, once I got there, I have to say the Croatia is absolutely beautiful. I wasn't sure what to expect, but it wasn't this. Both phones have a similar feel, and I like the slightly round edges that don't dig into your hand. The Reno14 does have a bigger display at 6.59 inches versus 6.1 inches on the iPhone 16, and I like previewing and then looking at images on the larger display. It's also a 120 Hz display versus a 60 Hz display on the iPhone, and while I do like that from a user experience standpoint, it's not really a major thing when it comes to photography or video. Now, I do want to tell you that all the photos and the videos that you see here are straight out of the camera, and all were shot with the default camera apps. I didn't use the Pro Photo or the Pro Video mode on the Reno14, which gives you a lot more control. There's also an underwater mode and then a dual view mode, which lets you record with the front-facing camera and the rear-facing camera at the same time. That's pretty cool when you're trying to document what you're looking at. And overall, there's just a lot more than you could do with the Reno14 camera. So while I try to keep it to what most average users would do, if I'm comparing the camera apps, I'm definitely going to give the edge to the Reno14. The hotel we stayed at in Dubrovnik was right on the water, and the sunsets were truly magical. In the morning, I was greeted with a spectacular view from my balcony, followed by a breakfast that typically consisted of meat, cheese, eggs, and yogurt. The next day, we took a day trip where we walked around the old town. It was crazy hot, even though we were still by the water, and it was really cool to see the incredible architecture and to capture details. Now, comparing the main and ultra-wide cameras, both phones did a good job, but every time zoom came into play, the Reno14 came out ahead. Now, that's mostly because the iPhone is digitally cropping into the image from the main camera, while the Reno14 uses the 3.5x telephoto camera to optically zoom without losing quality, and only then starts to zoom in digitally. So if you like to take photos of objects that are farther away, the Reno14 is definitely the way to go. You'll see that the iPhone zoom photos really break down and become pixelated and grainy, while the Reno14 photos look much better. Now, we had a quick dinner at a restaurant by the water and then took a cable car up the mountain to get an overview of the city. Now, watching the sunset from the top of the mountain was surreal. The colors were amazing, and it also gave us an opportunity to test the low light performance of each camera. Low light portraits came out great, but what was even more telling was the flash. So the Reno14 was able to expose for the background, keeping deeper and richer colors, and then more naturally light the subject, while the iPhone had a brighter overall image where the subject was more washed out and there was severe red eye. And you can actually see the processing that the Reno14 does to the image here, where it almost looks like it's using multiple exposures and then merging them together. Now, the next day we started making our way to Split, which was the primary filming location for several key scenes in Game of Thrones. Now, right where we started out, there was this cool model of the city, which gave you a fun overview of what's to come. Again, it was a super hot day, and we were definitely feeling it, walking around, climbing up a ton of stairs, then walking through the really unique walkways. And honestly, with these types of views, you can't really complain about the weather. Now, going all the way to the top, there were some pretty incredible views where the sea was below on the right, and then the city and mountainscapes were on the left. Now, one advantage I'm going to give the iPhone for video is that you could shoot 4K with the ultra ultra-wide camera. On the Reno 14, you could only use the main and telephoto cameras to shoot 4K. If you wanted to use the ultra-wide, you had to bring the resolution down to 1080p. Now, the Old Town was super cool, and there were opportunities for everything from portraits in good light, street photography as we toured the town, and even some low light portrait locations with some of the underground passages. Now, looking at the low light portraits, detail-wise, both phones did well, but the iPhone seems to have a bit of a warm tone to it. We then went back to the hotel to freshen up before going out for the night, and I used that opportunity to capture a bird's eye view of the town and a quick test of the zoom with this friendly seagull. Now, heading back into town in the evening, the colors were just beautiful. Here's another quick test of the flash to showcase how each phone renders skin tones and the background. Now, let's finish everything with a few low light video clips from both. All right, so that wraps up our photo tour of Dubrovnik and Split, two of the most stunning locations that I've ever had a chance to capture. Now, seeing these shots side by side, it's clear that both the Reno 14 and the iPhone 16 have their strengths. The iPhone 16 leaned into those warm, punchy tones with that signature Apple consistency and had some advantages when it came to video, while the Reno 14 really surprised me, especially with dynamic range, flash, and then of course, anytime zoom came into play. Now, whether it was the golden stone walls of Dubrovnik's Old Town or the deep blues along the Adriatic and Split, both phones made the most of the scenery. But which one told your favorite story through photos and video? Let me know in the comments. Are you on Team Reno 14 or Team iPhone 16 after this tour? And if you enjoyed this travel plus tech combo, I've got more epic locations and more head-to-head tech comparisons coming soon. You know what I always say, buy it nice or buy it twice. Good luck and see you soon.